I used to be a patron of Calm, Jane's charity, and she'll have heard me tell this story before, but what happened was I was at my first day at taking my daughter to primary school, and Jane came up to me in the playground and said, "Would you want to be the patron of my charity?" And I thought, well, I'm going to have to see this woman every day for the next 7 years. So if I say no, I'm going to feel so fucking guilty. I just have to say yes. And even though that was the reason, I'm glad I did, because I had suffered and still do suffer from, but not as badly, from clinical depression. I dealt with it in a very straightforward way, in so much as you can deal with it, which was to go into therapy and take antidepressants and all the rest of it. But through Calm, I met all these young men who didn't have any template for dealing with depression, who came from a very different background, and who essentially didn't really know what was happening to them when they became depressed. And that is really, I think, one of the things we need to talk about, is this idea of men not being able to speak about their emotions, so therefore they get depressed. Men is not a block. There are many, many different types of men, and a lot of it will be to do with your background and to do with your understanding and to do with, just whether or not you're given the tools to deal with depression, and not all men are, and that isn't just to do with their gender.
We've had Women's Hour over the last 30, 40 years, and it's been brilliant for women. It's been brilliant for women my age. It's changed our self-image, and it's given us, on a daily basis, the words that we can find to use to identify what's happening in our lives, to be able to express the things that hurt us, and to also give us the confidence to go, well, this isn't right. Part of what we have to do as men and women is to question some of the notions that we have about how men should be. Why do we have these notions still? That men are good at hitting things really hard, carrying out the rubbish, doing the DIY, changing the plugs.
I've got some jobs at my house that need doing, Jane, if you want to pop round.
I charge.
Yeah, I know. Well, actually, I wanted to pick up on the Women's Hour thing a little bit. There have been attempts to do a Men's Hour. Radio 5 did one. I mean, it was an all right show, but it sort of wasn't taken seriously. Yeah. Because the idea of men having a space where they could talk about men's stuff has got a slightly comedy thing to it, and people thought it had an ironic voice, that show, which Woman's Hour doesn't have. Now, I think you can ask the question as well, like, Woman's Hour, is that okay? Because Woman's Hour implies that 51% of the population just have an hour to themselves in 24 hours of broadcasting. That in itself is maybe problematic, but I think insofar as, there's a problem anyway with men being considered the norm still in our society, the sort of default gender, and therefore women are more allowed to talk about what's happening to them, because it's not considered, oh, well, we all know about that. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like we all know about men, so we don't have to talk about them. And that's completely wrong. Yeah. But at the same time, it is a problem, because when you do start to talk about men in things like that Men's Hour thing, it very quickly becomes something that people ironise or make jokes about or don't quite take seriously.
Because there is this real embarrassment that men should have a kind of Woman's Hour. There is a real embarrassment that men can be needy, and I think that, and I think that we need to hold that up and go, well, that's bizarre. Which, I mean, why not?